Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Tarpley. I'm the Director of Academic Engagement at Gale. I've been with the organization for 21 years in a variety of roles, from marketing to product development to sales to customer training and implementation. I'm going to be serving as the moderator for this discussion. I wanted to start out with some background information about how the idea of this panel discussion came about. In December 2021, Gale formed a new academic outreach and engagement team with the goal of helping customers increase usage and awareness of their Gale resources through a team of experienced higher education professionals. Prior to the academic outreach and engagement team's inception, Gale provided centralized training and support that was sort of diluted due to the multiple markets our organization serves. We serve K through 12 schools, public libraries, special libraries, government libraries, and of course, higher ed. So the academic outreach and engagement team is laser focused on engagement and support needs of higher education and libraries. And each member of our team has experience within higher ed. The mission of our new team is to put into practice white glove service for library partners with a keen eye towards the specific needs of driving usage and awareness across institutions of higher ed through collaborative library partnerships post-sale. Examples of Gale's academic outreach and engagement team services include content query assistance, LibGuide or A to Z list import files and audits, creation of course guides and topic guides, faculty research area alignments, and of course, course alignments. Training, we offer both asynchronous training opportunities as well as live workshops, and much more. In the next few slides, I'll give you a few visuals of some of the work that we've done. We've actually pioneered a process to help institutions manage their A to Z list with regular audits and the creation of bespoke A to Z list import files that can be ingested into the SpringShare admin, alleviating a pain point for many libraries and increasing one point of discovery for end users. We've partnered with institutions like Indiana University to create bespoke course guides. We've created a private guide to support their Asian American Studies courses. They took their private guide Gale created and copied it over into the Indiana University LibGuide template, as you can see here. And this is an impactful engagement approach for their students, their instructors teaching the course, and was done through collaboration of the Asian American Studies Library Liaison at the institution. We also offer faculty and course alignments for libraries who are looking to bolster usage of resources by promoting content to faculty and or aligning it to courses. These are private LibGuides created for institutions like Illinois State University, Syracuse, and Swarthmore College. We also offer a bevy of other engagement materials, as you can see pictured here, from custom-made tip sheets, course research guides, archive and program guides, custom tutorials, support LibGuides, and virtually whatever else you may need to support research on your campus with Gale resources. As my new team and I began to proactively reach out to library staff at our key accounts offering our usage-driving services, my excitement started to dwindle. Many librarians and library directors turned us down. One of the main reasons cited was that if they partnered with Gale, they would want to or have to partner with all their other library vendors in a similar way, and they did not want to show favoritism. I couldn't understand this. After all, Gale resources are not inexpensive, and our services were intended to provide greater return on investment. So nonetheless, we marched on, and 46% of the institutions that did partner with us took Gale up on a variety of different services, some of those that I showed you earlier. And as a result, they saw retrievals increase year over year, 10%, and in most cases by much, much more. More importantly, relationships that were forged through the collaborations with the library have been the most rewarding and have spawned additional collaborative adventures like this Charleston presentation. So why did some libraries take us up on our outreach and engagement services and others not? What made these library partners say yes? Let's hear from them directly. So I think a good place to start in any great discussion would be by letting our audience learn more about each of you. Would you share with us some details about your current role and institutional affiliation, as well as a bit about perhaps your research interests? Elizabeth, do you want to start?
Yes, good morning. My name is Elizabeth Schlackman. I'm a research and teaching librarian at Montgomery College, which is a community college in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is in the DC suburbs. Um, I work in a team across 3 campuses, and we liaise specifically with health sciences, communications, applied technology, student services, counseling, and non-credit courses department. Yes, we are the miscellaneous category. We tidy up everybody else who's not covered by STEM, business, humanities. Um, in my team, I am the collection development coordinator. So that means I have a small responsibility for material selection in my discipline, and we also advise the college's collection development librarian. And then my research interests are very casual. At a community college, we focus mostly on service and student education. But I'm really interested in improving and implementing EDI measures these days. Thank you.
Very nice. Yeah. Susanna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Susanna Smith. I'm an assistant professor at Georgia Highlands College, which is a state college in Northwest Georgia. I wear a couple of hats. My primary focus is being the acquisitions and collection management librarian, but I'm also an instructional designer, and that's kind of where my research interests lie. I've been spearheading the development of online information literacy modules, and right now I'm doing a major data analysis about usage and student outcomes.
Very exciting. Great. And then Liliana.
Yes, hello, good morning. My name is Liliana Galindo, and I currently serve at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, South in Texas. I am currently the Research and Instructional Services Coordinator. This is a new position that I've been serving for the past 2 years. But previous to that, my experience is primarily in access services. So those come with my research interest, primarily on library customer satisfaction and a general assessment of libraries as a whole.
Wonderful. And Joel.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joel Chirinos. I'm the head of research and instructional services for the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, along with Liliana. We both work within the research and instruction department to advance bibliographic instruction, research. We are a distributed campus, so part of our campus is in Brownsville, Texas, and the other part of our campus extends to Harlingen, Texas, and Edinburgh, Texas. And so throughout the valley, the university is prevalent and reaches all sorts of different programs, studies, colleges. My focus is on education. I was a former educator. I was a special education teacher for middle school services for several years, and then came to the library and became a librarian.
Wow. So we've got a lot of talent here. We're going to have a great discussion today about library vendor partnerships and kind of how you work through those. I'm just curious, are any of you teaching courses this academic year? I think, yeah, Susanna, it looks like you are. Talk to us a little bit about your utilization of online resources in teaching.
Sure. Our statewide online collection of resources is called Galileo, and all of our individual database subscriptions are collected under its umbrella, which uses an EBSCO Discover platform as the main search. So in my 4-credit class, I focus on using Galileo and using the search capabilities there. But when I'm doing individual one-shot library sessions, I'll pick and choose depending on the type of class I'm teaching. So for example, for British literature, I'll pull out literature databases. And of course, Gale Literature is a favorite because it also pulls in all the literary criticism books that we purchase as well. Or I'll highlight psychology databases for Psych 1101. And I'll embed links to all of those resources in the SpringShare library guides that I create for every class.
Amazing. Yeah, great. So I think generally speaking, I'd like for you all to describe how you've typically worked with publishers or library vendors, depending on how you choose to coin us. How have you typically worked with publishers or library vendors in the past? And maybe Elizabeth, we start with you, and then Liliana and Joel, if you want to maybe chime in, that would be helpful as well. So go ahead, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so my role is very sort of at the beginning of resource sort of acquisition. I'm blessed to work with a collection development librarian who's college-wide, as well as an e-resources manager librarian. So I really interact with vendors, with publishers in a very sort of initial way of sort of like what's out there and maybe doing trials with them. We're looking at reviewing items, doing reviewing overlap comparisons. We're always very grateful when we receive those. And we've also worked with vendors on collection assessment for converting like our paper holdings to ebooks. So that's our e-resources librarian is the one who handles invoices and stuff like that. So.
Okay. So pretty transactional, like sales oriented when you're looking for something new or.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Joel, do you want to chime in here with how you typically worked? Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah. So our e-resources librarian and our acquisition librarian, they are sort of on top of all of that. And so they do a really great job of sending us, especially with the research and instruction department, a new database or a new suggestion, something that we can preview and something that we can kind of take a look at and say, you know what, this is our recommendation. This is what we like. This is what we, is a little maybe not on the user-friendly level. And so we're trying to take a look at all those different things because, as students start doing the research, we want them to be engaged. We want them to be able to use some of these resources. When we're teaching them, we want them to be able to say, okay, I can go back to my home or I can go back to my dorm and begin the research process without too much kind of going through all sorts of levels before I find the resource that I want. So Liliana and I, we put our mindset as a student, starting off for the first time, and when they bring us these requests or recommendations, say, okay, Liliana, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a freshman incoming student. How would they navigate around this? So again, it helps. Our recommendations are important. And so we ultimately hope that they're going to make the decisions that are going to best influence our students and support them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So traditionally more so when you're acquiring new resources,
exactly.
That's kind of the relationship that you have with publishers and library vendors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I love that you both put yourself in the student's shoes when you're evaluating all the information from library publishers and vendors. Susanna, how have you typically worked with library vendors and publishers?
Well, certainly there's always that transactional nature. I need this. Do you have it that I can get it from you? But there's also, it's great to discover that you have a need. I've got a class that needs primary resources. I've got a class that needs some very specific kinds of short story literary criticism. And I know that I've got this stuff with a particular vendor, but I just don't have time to pull together content to make it easily accessible for my students. So, with Gale, for example, they can create LibGuides or put together a focus list of materials that we already hold that I can then say, oh, look, I have these resources. I can add in others from other vendors and say, here's what I've got. And I didn't have to spend, 5 hours trolling through all of the stuff that we have to pull it together. I have something to start from. And that's a huge benefit.
Yeah. So Susanna, it sounds like you have some really good relationships with some of the library publishers and vendors that you work with. I think that's a good kind of segue into kind of where we want to guide the conversation next. I think that the audience would love to hear a little bit more about how you have partnered with Gale specifically to sort of drive that usage or the resource awareness. Can you each take a few moments to describe the partnership, the strategy, or the tactics that you embarked on with Gale? And I think maybe it might be good to start with you, Susanna, since you sort of already alluded to a couple of the things that you partnered with Gale on. Do you want to kind of continue to kind of walk through your relationship history and kind of how you've partnered with Gale over the years?
Sure. It's nice because I'm wearing my acquisitions hat, but I'm also wearing my instruction hat. So it gives me a really great perspective. But I've had a really great relationship with Gale, especially from the beginning. I moved into the acquisitions role in late 2014, and my Gale ebooks rep at the time, Scott Ouellette, was one of the first people who reached out to me. And really, until he moved on, gosh, was that 2 years ago? I don't even know if it was that long ago. He would call and he would talk about, new things that are coming out, but he would always have like a fun fact of the day or just something interesting to say that really gave me my first experience with a vendor rep who was both knowledgeable and fun to just chat with. So because of that initial contact and because of that really positive experience, he took me from, we subscribed to Opposing Viewpoints. We'd had it forever, but he was able to tell me about other great databases that they had. And, that moved me into discovering more resources that we could do and kind of help me use some of the marketing tools that were there, but they just weren't easy to find. There was always that little like support place on the website where you could find flyers and stuff. And he was the one that originally pointed me to those. And so just developing really positive relationships with reps is so, so important.
That's great. Great. And then Liliana, tell us a little bit about your partnership with Gale, specifically to drive usage and awareness of the resources that you all have at UTRGV.
Of course. It's been wonderful so far. So what happened within our institution is that the university library is under what we call Tech-Share contracts. And this is a consortium, which is part of the Texas Libraries, State Library and Archives Commission. So TCLAC, they evaluated the resources and they chose to adopt some of the Gale resources. So that is how this journey began in us having these resources within our library. Just from the beginning, from the start of when we adopted the Gale resources, reps have been greatly, we've collaborated with them. And we quickly started the discussion. We wanted to see within the Research and Instruction Services Department, how could we market these new databases to our students and how we can go about it. But it was also very vital for us, for our librarians within the R&I department to know about their resources, especially within their subject areas of expertise. And so we immediately had meetings with Gale reps, and we came to the conclusion that the best thing was to provide workshops and trainings, starting off first with our R&I librarians, and then transcending and providing workshops to faculty members of different disciplines. And so we began this journey and we offered several workshops and trainings, and we've had wonderful feedback from faculty. Our librarians were super excited to learn about all these different resources and expand their knowledge in order to make their instruction classes more valuable to our students.
That's wonderful. So for you all, it was more of the training that the academic outreach and engagement team offered, and coming up with a training plan and a design that met the needs of your campus, right? Your library staff had to get used to the new Gale resources coming out of the Texas statewide, transition. But then also, I love that you involved Gale's academic outreach and engagement team with your faculty and your students who are teaching those courses, because I think it's so it's such an important piece of getting those resources utilized as supplemental material in those courses.
Definitely. And we had a great attendance from faculty. We were very pleased, and they were so amazed on everything that the Gale resources has to offer them. So it's been a good turnout so far.
Yeah, amazing. Well, anything to add from your perspective, or did you
Yeah,
really cover
yeah,
it?
yes. As a former educator, one of the aspects that I really enjoy about my job is the teaching. But then I became a supervisor, so the teaching role became less and less. But this past year, Liliana and I were like, you know what? Let's undertake more instruction because I really like engaging with students. And so I've been dealing with a lot of the intro type classes, and I introduce these Gale resources to high school students because we do have dual enrollment, and also to some incoming freshmen. And they love them. They love the ease of searching, the amount of resources that are there, the way the setup is, where the professor's asking them for scholarly journals, academic journals, they're there. They want magazines, they want you. So everything is broken down for them. And so being able to introduce students to, one file and some of the other ones, it's been great. And so the support from Gale is awesome. And so we have very, very great things to say about our partnership and our relationship.
Wonderful. Yeah, hopefully that continues where we'll enjoy, continuing to support you as you and your campus sort of dive deeper into those Gale resources. Elizabeth, how did you partner with Gale and the academic outreach and engagement team?
Yeah. So last year, what is time? Last year, so as I said, I'm one of 4 collection development coordinators. We have a collection development librarian. We have, of course, a collection development committee. And we had taken as a goal last year that we would improve internal training, like for library staff, because of course we have so many employees who are student facing, even if they're not research and teaching librarians, access services, and even sometimes our tech services folks. Not that they're student facing, but it's useful for them to know. And at the same time, the division that I'm part of, the research and teaching division, decided to take on a massive task. But we didn't want to leave this goal behind. And our resources librarian was like, well, Gale and other databases will provide trainers. And we're like, perfection. And I took the role to work with the Gale trainer who was assigned to us, Ann Nagrant, who was amazing. I thought that I might have to do a lot of heavy lifting with like lesson planning, setting assignments, setting activities, because it was very much like what we wanted was very much like a student experience where a database is demoed and explained, and then the participants are given activities to work through the database and learn about the features and the content. But no, Anne just gave me the most amazing lesson plan. We actually afterwards, the teaching librarians were like, we're keeping that because that was great. And that was wonderful. We also did, of course, a post-session survey with our employees, and it was rated very highly, very effective. So this was sort of the first time we'd ever done something like this. We're always, of course, thinking about staff training because that trickles down to student experience, doesn't it? And empowering our employees to feel more comfortable with these resources and not to just silo it with, oh, that's a librarian thing and I can't, all that sort of thing. So that's what we did, and it was very effective.
That's great. Yeah. So Elizabeth, your experience at Montgomery College, and then Joel and Liliana at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, you all kind of focused around, training and doing, kind of live workshops and that kind of cascaded down and helped to support you. Whereas Susanna, I think what you were saying is that you use the academic outreach and engagement team's services more for, you're an instructional designer and you're teaching these courses, but you have a plethora of resources from many different publishers and vendors. You utilized our services more so of like, what discreetly, help me pull out or discreetly identify what can be used to help me support this research initiative or this course, that kind of thing. Can you Susanna, talk to us a little bit about what led you to engage with the academic outreach and engagement team at Gale? What led you to say yes to the different support services that we offered?
So there were two big things. Archives Unbound had rolled out, and we had just had to drop, or the state had dropped a primary sources content. And so I had some history classes that were kind of struggling to find good primary sources. And I was like, well, I know I've got Gale. I don't have time to put together a really good package to kind of push that out to the faculty. And content specialist came and said, oh no, we can build you a LibGuide that you can just copy over and plug in. And that saved me just so much time. And so I was able to plug that in and put that into a module that these faculty are now using for their students who are having to do primary source research. So that was the first. And then the other one was, with the Gale Research Complete package, there are like 50 databases as part of that. And who's got time to go in and plug all of those into your database's A to Z list? That would not be me. Even though that's my job responsibility as part of my acquisitions and collection management, I just didn't have time. And so someone came in and said, oh, hey, we can provide you a list. And so you can just go in. And I was like, yes, yes. So those two things specifically really helped me save me time and get the content into the hands of the people and students and patrons who needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think bandwidth is probably going to be a huge issue for all of you because just based on your introductions, you're involved in so many aspects of, the library and, extending into teaching and supporting students and faculty on campus. So it's always amazing to hear, just how stretched most librarians are. So I'm glad to hear that there was benefit, Susanna, from partnering with my academic outreach and engagement team. It allow you to do more strategic things, right? Putting databases in an A to Z list is not, it's something that has to be done, but it's not a very strategic thing. And you could spend your time in a better way by leveraging the customized template that we shared with you, which we're happy to hear. Elizabeth, talk to us. Was it another bandwidth thing in terms of what led you to say yes to partnering with Gale's academic outreach and engagement team?
Exactly. As I said, right as we were planning this sort of staff training, a big project came up for my unit, my division. And so there was no way that one of the teaching librarians could have designed the session, run it, all that sort of stuff, especially to the level that our Gale trainer did. It was so, I keep saying this, it was so high quality. It was delightful. We were just so happy to collaborate to have that achieve our goals. Because as we all know, there are those projects that just keep getting pushed to the wayside because more important things, student-facing things come up. And it's so wonderful to find these partners to do that. And as we sort of say jokingly, like we've already paid for it, why don't we use it? Because these services don't cost anymore. Like they're just included with our subscription.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. Liliana, talk to us about why you said yes to partnering with Gale's academic outreach and engagement team.
So within our department, we do yearly assessments of the colleges or areas that we need to focus our instruction a little bit more. And so this year, our focus was towards the College of Business. And so when we started our conversations with Gale and we started to organize how these trainings were going to happen, they made it so simple and easy for us to provide training specifically on business resources directly from Gale. And kind of like what Elizabeth mentioned, it was a very delightful process. The trainings, faculty were completely amazed and surprised of all the different resources that are available through Gale. So this kind of simplified our job for us in trying to get into the College of Business a little bit more with more resources. So this was just it was perfect timing for us as we had targeted the College of Business, and we had faculty show lots of interest when we sent out the invitation for them and their students to come and be part of the training. So it was perfect timing, and Gail has been wonderful to work with during this whole assessment process of our department and instruction.
Yeah. So what I'm learning from our conversation today, it seems that you all were very comfortable with Gail's academic outreach and engagement team sort of reaching out to you and offering these services. You either had relationships with Gail previously, like Susanna had a long-standing relationship, or we did proactive outreach and you said yes to these things. So what I'm realizing is that, at your institutions, and with your background and with your expertise, you all didn't feel any pressure to, say yes to us and maybe, not partner with another vendor. So I'm wondering if you all think that there are other factors that impact, speaking generally, we don't want to stereotype, librarianship or anything like that. But generally speaking, what do you think some of the impediments might be based on your experience with partnering with vendors like Gail? I mean, are there things that hold you back that you can think of? Is it that you're just too busy in your role that you don't think of these post-sales services being offered? Anyone want to kind of nibble on that dialogue a little bit? Susanna?
Well, I mean, Gail, I think, was the first vendor that said, hey, we can do all this stuff to help you. But I also think that there other vendors would be happy to do similar things. You would just have to reach out to them. So if, someone was concerned that you're showing favoritism or whatever, say, well, hey, other vendor of mine, this vendor did this. Can you provide me some content that I can fold into the same area? Or, I can create something that based on your information. And I can't imagine that a vendor would say, oh, no, we don't want to help you use our products at all. It just seems kind of crazy.
Yeah. So maybe the unknowingness, right? Like of what support services even exist. So educating, one thing that I think we can take away from this is that maybe Gail needs to spend a little bit more time on designing a framework for potentially, how libraries, different institutions can partner with us for this, academic outreach and engagement support, all the services that we offer, and kind of what that looks like. Because, our whole being, my team really is there to help alleviate some of the pain points that you all are facing and the challenges that you're facing, whether it's bandwidth to do something, and like things that are cumbersome, like, maintaining your A to Z list. Well, that's a really hard thing to do when you've got 9,000 other more strategic priorities that you're pressed for. And if something, I know the A to Z list is just one discovery point for your users, but without having the resources that you've acquired there, then they may not get as much usage or exposure as you would have hoped when you acquired them. So if there are things like that vendors and publishers can offer, I think maybe just kind of marketing those services is a key takeaway for me. So maybe it's not that people were afraid to partner with us, or, maybe it wasn't favoritism. Maybe that was just something that came to their mind as a response for their decision not to partner with Gail when we offered our services to them. Maybe they just didn't know what to ask for, what support could be offered. And so I think one takeaway for me is understanding that, perhaps there's a framework that Gail can put together that kind of outlines the various services that we offer. So I think when we sort of close this discussion out here, I'd love to hear from you all about some additional advice you might have to share with librarians who are listening to today's discussion as it relates to initiating outreach to publishers or library vendors for these types of post-sales services, usage and awareness driving services of resources you've acquired. So Liliana, do you want to take this one and kind of share some closing thoughts with advice?
Yes, of course. So for us, when Gail said we are available to help, we said yes, and that helped us in terms of also planning. Every semester we provide open workshops, and when Gail came over and said we're here, we're available, we focused all of our workshops for 2 semesters directly on just Gail resources. So just having that availability of someone saying, here we are, how can we help you? How can we make everything a smoother transition for you all was extremely important. And going back to what Joel said, our focus is student oriented. And students and faculty sometimes don't think in terms of vendors, they think in terms of resources. And if someone is available to make our transition better and easier, why not say yes? We, like I mentioned before, students have loved all of the resource, and it made everyone within the department was just so. All of our librarians were so excited to proceed with these workshops regarding Gale. So just keeping the student in mind, keeping our research in mind, and who we serve, and that's the reason we said yes.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's great advice. Elizabeth, do you want to tackle this next?
Yes. So I think some of the advice that I'd offer is that it's easy to get run down and sort of be, in the hamster wheel of library work, and especially academic library work where the academic year cycle is so punishing sometimes. To think about where are our pain points? What can help us? What kind of help would help us be more effective, reach more students, improve our own knowledge, is a great place to start. And then, reach out to vendors and say, what can you do? I always think that you can say no. If it gets to a point where, God forbid, you do feel uncomfortable or like you're showing favoritism or something like that, there's no harm in asking. And then, as one of my friends puts it, you can always ask and I can always say no. So that's, I think, one big thing to think about. And then I also think that this idea, and this is me being a little penny pinching, is get your money's worth. We're all with tight budgets. Many of us are public institutions. We have a fiscal responsibility, and to squeeze every penny. Sorry, to get our money's worth for our students and for our, all of our stakeholders.
Yeah. Sage advice. You can start something and then you can say, no, no, thanks. We're going to go a different direction afterwards. And then I love the fact that you're, cost conscious, right?
Yes,
you buy these resources, they cost a lot of money. It's a lot of your recurring budget, et cetera. So why not, ask for the post-sale support that you need to drive that usage and awareness. Wonderful. And then Susanna, you want to share some advice? You've got a lot of great experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it this way. You're paying for this content to meet a specific need, and your vendors are motivated for you to keep that content. And so if a vendor partnership, and whether that's using focused marketing content or working with them on a data project or doing training or whatever, if that partnership will help get that resource into the student hands that need it, why would you say no?
Mm-hmm. Great. I love it. Well, you all have just been a fabulous panel here. And I know that our watchers, the attendees of this session virtually, will enjoy this and hearing your perspectives. And I hope what this conversation brings to the forefront are just kind of summarizing some of those key advice points that you all offered, right? Don't be afraid to reach out to library partners for the support that you need. I love Elizabeth's statement about, identify what your needs are. And, if there's a partner that can help you achieve that need or fulfill a gap in terms of support and driving usage and awareness, of the resources you've already invested in, why not ask to see what they can do? And if they offer you something that you're not interested in, know that you can say no to that. And to Susanna's point, right, this is part of the price that you pay for these resources, and library partners want you to have that utilization. They want you to have high usage and so on and so forth, because that usage generally will kind of keep those resources intact at your institution. So I love those key points. And Liliana and Joel, I'm smitten with the approach that you all have in mind in terms of putting the student user experience and the faculty user experience at the forefront of everything that you do. That's really sage advice. I think that many will take away quite strongly, because even with your post-sale support, that was a real kind of standout to me, is, what is this going to do for our students' experience and our faculty's experience? So just tremendous discussion today. Thank you all so much for your time and your contributions in this discussion. I think now will be a great time to answer some questions from our audience.